it's so difficult because you want to give your kids the world and everything, but it's also not good to always be giving yourself to everything else. We know this. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't. So what's the solution? It's okay to hate those hard parts and also not always want to be faking it. And the biggest issue is that we ignore those signals from our body that I'm touched out, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, because we've been told moms are just tired. That's part of it. You're supposed to just be tired until they're old enough to take care of themselves. And that's such bullshit.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about something that I know all of you, like every single one of you, experiences and probably feels a little bit guilty about, and that's being touched out. Okay, we're going to talk about this because this is real life here. We are dealing with this on a regular basis, if not daily. And I brought Molly here to come talk about this so that she can give some tips on how to navigate that so that you don't feel that immense guilt of like, oh gosh, I just asked my son to go away because I'm touched out, or I just turned down my husband because he wants to connect and I don't know what to do. Like, I need space, but also this is happening every day. And so what happens here? Is this just my life now? And hoping the answer is no. I mean, I know the answer is no. So yeah, we're going to dive into that. And hopefully you can walk away from this episode having some things to try out and start noticing that it helps you. So welcome, Molly. Thanks for being on the show. I had the pleasure of being on her podcast recently. It's called Mommy Needs Me Time. So Molly, for those who are new to you, please let us know where you live, how old your kids are, and why you decided to specialize in helping moms live their best lives. Because obviously we deserve it, but
yeah. I mean, 100%. Yeah. So I right now live in Seattle. I'm in the process of moving back to the Minneapolis area. I've been married for 12 years, which is crazy because the first 6 felt great. And then the last 6 feel like they've been forever because I have a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. Becoming a mom for me wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't what I signed up for. We started our parenting journey with a 3.5-month stay in the NICU because my son showed up 2 months early, and that was met with a bunch of medical complications. And then I put myself last for out 2 or 3 years, and my mental health tanked. My marriage was falling apart. Then we hit a global pandemic, and I was like, there has to be more than this because I am more than this. And I think that that's a topic women are really afraid to embrace, that like, you're more than a mom. You are a wife, a friend, a coworker, a member of this community and society. And we feel guilty for that. And so my goal with Mama Needs Me Time is that no mom will ever feel as lonely as I did when I started my journey into motherhood. And so I got, all the certifications and dug deeper into psychology. And yeah, it's just been a great journey of helping other moms build systems within their capacity to take stuff off their plate, to give themselves more time for themselves, and just talking about all these things like why I need my kids to stop touching me.
I mean, that's so relatable. Before we hit record, I was telling her that towards the end of the day, around dinner time onwards, if someone puts something near my face, whether it's their hand, their head, a toy, I just like have this
very visceral reaction where it's like, get that away from me. And I like just cannot have anything within that vicinity for some reason. And I feel like that is my equivalent of being touched out. It's not like the hugging and whatever, unless it's like too long. It's like, okay, we got stuff to do. But can we dive into what is being touched out mean? I know we can all relate to it, but like what's actually going on and why do we get to that point?
Definitely. So the thing is, especially if you are a stay-at-home mom or moms, 99.7% of the time are the default parent. So when a child needs something, they're coming to mom. We talk a lot about the mental load of motherhood where you're managing so many different things. And especially in a world that we live in now that is kind of chaotic and uncertain, your nervous system doesn't know how to handle it. It doesn't know the difference between being tracked by a predator and managing the end of the school year with 10,000 things happening. Like your body physiologically just knows it is being pushed harder. And if you're training for a marathon or training for an athletic competition, great. You want to push yourself harder, build those muscles, move stronger, but your nervous system needs time to relax. And when you're a parent, especially a parent of young kids, you don't really get that time until they're in bed. And so then you think about what happens when they go to bed and you're like, I got to clean the kitchen. I got to make sure they have their soccer stuff. I've got to make sure lunches are packed. And then your husband comes walking in and you're like, get the fuck away from me. I never say it that way to him, but like in my brain, I'm like, if
That's
you
the
touch
tone.
me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna break. And it's because we haven't had time to relax. And so, especially younger kids, when you're nursing, you're rocking, you're constantly being physically touched, your body is in that like, I must nurture, I must respond, I must be there. And then when you have those moments where you blow up and lose it or say, get the fuck away from me, you're immediately met with that, you know, cyclical guilt of like, oh, that's not what a good mom would do. That's not what a good wife would do. So then you kick in this other part of your brain that's just like this shame spiral. And so it just continues to be this cycle of daily giving too much and not getting the relaxation and the downtime that we need. And it's a real problem.
It is, because it's almost like we are no longer in control of our time, of our space, of our energy levels. And it can get really overstimulating, right? Like they are really noisy people. I mean, I'm sure we were too, I'm not faulting them, but also let's be real about how overwhelming it is to just be constantly surrounded by people who could care less about how you're doing, and they have their needs, and it's all developmentally normal for them to be self-centered, but it's like, what about me?
And it's so hard too. They don't get it because they don't need the same thing. Their brains are not handling everything we're handling. And it's so difficult because you want to give your kids the world and everything, but it's also not good to always be giving yourself to everything else. We know this. Like this is basic. It's all over. You can't pour from an empty cup, which is my favorite cliche to use over and over again because it is true. Like you can't, but so what's the solution? And I don't think there's enough conversation about the hard parts of motherhood and that it's okay to hate those hard parts and also not always want to be faking it. And that's the biggest issue, is that we ignore those signals from our body that I'm touched out, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, because we've been told moms are just tired. That's part of it. You're supposed to just be tired until they're old enough to take care of themselves. And that's a fucking lie. Like, that's such bullshit. You're going to be tired. Yeah, there's going to be hard parts, but you also deserve a break and to be able to communicate that to people. And that's where we get stuck in this hard place because we aren't communicating it, but we're expecting our spouses to be mind readers and our children to just understand that from 3 to 5, don't touch mommy's face. Or from 3 to 5, my husband will say it and it triggers me. He'll be like, stay out of the kitchen when mom's in the kitchen, which is true. Like, I don't want them running around me while I'm by the stove
Right.
or using a knife. We had an incident with a donut. I do think it traumatized my son.
Oh.
He reached for a sprinkle while I was cutting
Oh.
and it barely cut him, but now he's like, Mom has a knife. And
Oh
I'm like,
gosh.
someone's gonna hear you say that, like from outside. Mom has a knife. And he'll like run away. But I'm like, it's effective. Like he learned a lesson.
Sure.
At the same time, like there's ways that we can build these boundaries, build these expectations of like, yes, I need space, but like the more you communicate it, the less you need to process it, if that makes sense. You won't need an hour and a half by yourself if you're taking little chunks of time by yourself throughout the day and saying, like, you can sit next to me, but please don't sit on me.
Mm-hmm.
Or like my husband, his primary love language is physical touch.
Oh, yay.
And mine is not.
Yeah.
And so I always joke that he's like the blanket from the Brave Little Toaster. He's like, Master, and like just wants to be on me. And I'm like, I can't right now.
Yeah.
And it feels like rejection. Like that's a really hard thing for him. And we've had to work on it a lot. And yeah, you don't have to be a touchy feely mom to be a good mom.
Mm-mm.
And I want more people to understand that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so now that we've set the foundation of what being touched out means, it's basically being overstimulated physically, where, you just want to own your own body
Yeah.
and not have someone take that over, whether it's your kids or your spouse. What are the silent or unintended impact of being touched out all the time?
We learned about these in elementary school health. It's the long-term effects of stress. Internalizing angst and anxiety and anger is going to just make them stronger. So you're going to be blowing up more about things that are super trivial. Like I know when I'm overstimulated, I'm the meanest driver in all of Seattle. And believe me, there is cause for that. There are a lot of not great drivers here, but like I will be like, what the hell are you doing? And it's like they just merged. Like they didn't do anything wrong, but I have no fuse. It's not a short fuse. Like I'm a grenade, not a stick of dynamite, and everything sets me off. And so then it becomes, okay, how do I dial back from that? Like, what do I need to do? I will evangelize having a neutral party to talk to the end of time. So having a therapist or a coach who can help you come up with these coping skills and tools and how to utilize them is super huge. But the long-term effects of stress are your heart and cortisol, so you like be gaining weight, and then you start to focus on that, and your body isn't able to handle it, isn't able to healthily process things. That's just the long-term effects of a fried nervous system and stress. And so we all talk about these things, right? Like you should do this and you should do that, but like how the hell do you get the time for it? Where do you find time for an hour-long therapy session or a coaching session? And that's where you have to start intentionally setting boundaries and time aside for yourself, because it's only going to benefit everyone when you start to recognize you need more help. And there should be no shame in that as a mom, that you need to talk to somebody. Your friends are not, I mean, some of your friends are trained professionals, but it is very rare to have a whole circle of friends who work in therapy or work in psychology. And so you need to recognize that, like, yeah, while you guys are going through the same thing and community is important and having an outlet is great, you need to build the tool set to process it to save yourself in the long run.
Yeah, validation only goes so far.
Yep.
I saw a reel that was funny, but it shouldn't be funny, but it's only funny because it's true, like I wish it wasn't true kind of thing, where like people our age get together and what do? They talk about how tired they are, how busy they are, the mortgage, kids, and it's like, and then they repeat that and then they say, okay, bye. And it's like when we get together with our friends and you don't have someone in there that specializes in having the right tool set, in teaching you how to regulate your nervous system, like you and I, right? If you don't have that in your circle, what are you going to do? You're going to drink your stress away temporarily. You're going to complain about your kids. You're going to complain about your husband. And then You're like, cool, we can relate to each other. Okay, back to our situations. Nothing actually improves. Maybe you have a tip here or there, but it's not like sustainable stuff. It
It's
really
kind of
builds
like
your
everyone's
toolkit.
paddling on the same side of the canoe. You're not going to
Yes,
go
go in
anywhere.
circles.
You just repeat the cycles over and over again. And my friends joke that I've become the you need therapy friend because like I said, I'll evangelize therapy to the end of time. Like therapy saved me more than once. It saved my marriage because it was teaching me how I individually needed help. And coaches are great for that too, if you have the foundation. Like I personally, as a coach, refer people to like, let's spend some time finding professionals to help you. Because sometimes you need to be on medication. Sometimes you need to go talk to a nutritionist. You shouldn't just be eating your kids' table scraps. You need to be nourishing your own body too. I think we talked about this on the episode I had with you. Like, I learned to swallow my nevers like really early into motherhood because I was like, I'll never make more than one meal. I almost always make 3 meals, like one for my husband, one for me, and one for the kids. Because that's what works for us. And that's what like helps me feel better. And I think the biggest step forward in this process is recognizing that what works for someone else might not work for you. And so you have to know yourself. Like self-awareness is the greatest gift you can give yourself as a mom because it helps you understand your kids better. It helps you understand and communicate your relational needs with your husband better. And I think the other dangerous part of just talking to your friends and then going back to the norm is that we're all trying to compare ourselves to each other. And it's such a dangerous game because I'm ADHD. My husband is on the spectrum. I don't know what my kids are yet because they're little, but like the way we do things is different than how my friends will do things, or the way I need to process things is different than how my friend who doesn't have ADHD needs to process things. And so having that awareness, and I'm not saying go out and get every acronym and label on yourself that you can, but it helps me to understand like, oh, I'm overstimulated because of X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't understand this trend of ASMR of people eating. No, I don't want to listen to anyone chew their food. But for some people, whatever, they love it. And like, maybe that's what soothes you. I don't know. Like, my 2-year-old loves to watch videos of people playing with slime and kinetic sand. And I can do like 10 minutes of them like cutting the kinetic sand. And I'm like, nope, we have to move on. I would rather listen to Baby Shark to the end of time than listen to them cut another piece of kinetic sand.
Yeah.
But I know that, like, I know what triggers me. And you have to own what triggers you. You don't blame your kids for being loud because it triggers you. Your triggers are your own, and your response is your own. You have to know what's going to bother you, and you have to communicate like, I would really like it if you would take your tablet to your room, or I don't want to listen to Minecraft right now. Can you turn it down or put your headphones on? And just owning those things and telling your friend like, I don't want to talk about how crappy your husband is today. Like, let's talk about the weather or gardening. Knowing those things and owning that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you don't want to constantly continue that cycle of like helping each other, you have to know that you're in that cycle and help break it.
The thing that came up for me is it can be dangerous only talking to your friends if you don't have someone in your circle that can actually support you. Is that sometimes you normalize these things and think, oh, well, this is just how it works. And then you just accept it for what it is. Or you're like, well, my friend has it worse than me, and so I shouldn't say anything. I shouldn't complain. I don't have a right to feel bad because they have it worse. And it's not a competition of who has it worse. They can only talk, they can only share what they're struggling with. This is why working with a professional, whether it's a therapist or a coach, is so helpful because we're literally here for you, not to like wait for our turn to share what we're griping about. We're literally here, full presence, to listen, validate, and actually support you. Not like with your friends where you're just sitting around in a circle and like having a bitch fest, right? Like,
And I think the thing too is to understand, I know a lot of people shy away from coaching and therapy because they don't want to feel judged because you're talking to a stranger, but it's also a stranger who is specialized and trained to help you. Whereas like I feel judged by my friends all the time. And so I will shy away from sharing some things. Like I have a few friends who don't have kids. And so I just always think of Catherine Hahn on Parks and Rec when she's like, my life is amazing. Your life is gross because of Leslie and Ben's kids. And sometimes they're like that. Yeah, they're like, that's disgusting. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just scrubbing poop off the bathroom rug today because she decided to take her own diaper off. And they're like, that's gross. But then they're like wiping their dog's butt with a tissue because, and I'm like, we're all dealing with shit. Like,
yeah.
And that's the reality of it. And, you know, it's just recognizing where you are on your scale of Molly feels the best she's ever felt in her life, or Molly doesn't feel great at all. And what do I need to do to pick myself up from that? And it's okay to not know that at 25, 35, 45, but like, when do you want to figure that out? When will it be your priority? We talked before about, sure, you can wait till your kids are gone, but like, why live that 18 to 20 years just being miserable?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is that how you want to see yourself? Like, I think the pandemic woke up a lot of people to recognizing needing space for themselves because we were all forced together. We were kind of isolated from our communities for a while. And, you know, psychologically, there was a massive increase in therapy, massive increase in kids being diagnosed with behavioral things and psychological needs. And I think that that's an important shift for us as a society, that we need to focus on each other and focus on ourselves to make improvements, because it's not worth it to be unhappy. And as moms, we 100% glorify the busy. The busier you are, the more you're doing, the better mom you are. And that's bullshit. Like, that's such trash because there's not enough of you to go around. What happens to your marriage when you've got 2 kids in 6 activities and you're on the PTA and you're running a business and when are you spending time with the person who you started this with? Because I know that my husband is the first person that gets neglected when I am touched out, when I am upset. And then I'm just like, I can't handle it. I just can't handle it. And he takes it personally that it's him. And it's a tough draw. Normally, I find myself bashing husbands and dads, like unintentionally, just when we're talking about like women carving out time for themselves. But it's also like, they have needs too. And while it is not our job to meet every woman need at the moment of demand, it is important to maintain that communication with them and to be able to say like, hey, today was a really tough day and I just need some space. Like, can we circle back in like 20 minutes and talk about your day or talk about what you need? Or asking, do you have time to talk to me? Because you don't want to just like dump on them constantly. Like, they're supposed to be your buddy and your partner and all these things, but they also don't want to be your punching bag. And I think that, you know, as we actively avoid trying to not yell at the kids or to take it out on the kids. And so it ends up, we take it out on the next closest target.
Yeah, the person that can quote unquote handle it better because they can understand maybe what you're going through. And this all ties back to a question I love to have my clients ask them is, what's it like to be married to me right now? Like, this is just another reflection. Like, yes, you might be listening to this like, oh gosh, another thing to do. And yeah, you could view it that way, or you could view it as a wake-up call. Like, okay, well, if I feel this way every single day and I don't have the relationship I want with my kids. I don't have the marriage that I want with my husband. Life doesn't feel great. I have choices to make. I can keep going and fuck around and find out. It's probably not going to be very good. Or I can be like, okay, what is under my control to change? Like my mind, how I look at it, how I handle it, what I say yes to, what I say no to. Ultimately, it's kind of like how, what they say about your upbringing. Not your fault, but still your responsibility with how you ended up and what you're going to do with that. Are you going to grow out of it and help yourself be able to handle stuff better and make decisions that are more aligned to what it is that you want? Or are you just going to keep blaming everybody for everything for how shitty you feel? One's going to land you in a much better position. The other one is going to push everyone else away.
I think there's a big kind of like a pop culture thing in a way where we talk about cycle breaking. Like, I'm a cycle breaker. Like, my dad abused my mom and like, I'll never allow that.
Right.
Great. It's kind of like with everything, right? Like when stuff hits mainstream or social media, it's always these high level things like, well, I'll never let a man lay a hand on me. Awesome. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
But like, you're going to let your husband stay for 15 years. He doesn't know how to load a dishwasher. Cycle breaking can be as small as teaching. And I get it. Like, it all sounds like it's more for you to handle, but it is our job as moms and parents and partners to teach. And it is our job. It is our nature to nurture, right? Like, we're built better for it.
Yep.
It's not that dads can't be loving, caring, and teach things, but like, we're better at having the patience and the hormonal balance to be like, it's very frustrating that you continue to do the same thing over and over again. And like, I am definitely a person who, like, I get that kind of Tom Hanks League of Their Own, like, okay, like shaky hands, gritted teeth. Like, I told you your socks go in this drawer, but like, that's what we're supposed to do as parents. And you can break any cycle by making a change. Like, I use the idea that like our grandmas and great grandmas and moms have been on the Oregon Trail, right? But when you think about it, at different points in time, people left the route and they went and traveled different parts of the country and they settled in different parts of the country. And to do that, you got to get the wagon out of the ruts. Like, yeah, you're going to risk dysentery and then dying. Like, you're going to risk the adversity of change.
Yep.
But what a fucking journey. Like, imagine the first person who like saw the Black Hills in South Dakota and was like, this is bomb. Or like the first person who got to like Yellowstone and saw the geysers. Like, they weren't on the same path as everyone else. I know that that's like a kind of mystical way to explain it, but like, you get to travel your own journey and do these things. And if you're not naming it and owning it and pushing through it, like, it's never going to get better. Like, you cannot not talk about it and expect it to change. And just because your mom lived a life with 3 or 4 kids climbing all over all day while performing wifely and motherly duties and just like smiled and went on, that doesn't mean you have to. Yeah. Like, you can do things differently. And I promise you, as somebody who is doing this and traveling this path their own way, you're going to be happier when you stop giving a shit about what other people are doing and how they're doing it. But the number one thing is, if you don't name it, if you don't own that it's happening, it's not going to stop. My husband for a long time didn't understand what I meant by like being touched out. He didn't get it. And so I had to explain it to him, which felt really dumb. But like I said, he loves physical affection. Like, he loves being touched. He loves holding the kids. He loves when the kids want to sit with him until he gets too hot. And I'm like, that's how I feel often. Like, I feel too hot. And I never want to reject when my kids want to be cuddly, because I realize it's going to go away completely someday. Yeah. And like, that's hard. Like, that is a hard heartstring pulling aspect of motherhood. I think of the newborn scrunch, like, when you pick up a baby and it curls up. Like, there was a series of TikToks where it's like, you never know when it's going to be the last time they do that. And I remember seeing one, and then I picked up my daughter and she didn't do it. And I was like, oh my God.
It's so fleeting. Like my daughter, she's my youngest, and she's going to kindergarten in the fall. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like for my older boys, like I was like, no, you're 4 now. You should walk. I shouldn't have to carry you. But here she is 5. I'm like, I'm going to carry you till you don't want me to anymore. Having that perspective changes a lot. And we almost have to think about it from a zoomed out perspective. Like, okay, looking back, will I regret not doing something sooner? Right? That's like the number one thing I hear all the time from my clients. I wish we got help sooner. I wish we had someone point out our blind spots and point out the things that we could have been doing differently, or we learned these tools sooner. But you don't know until you know, right? Yeah. And so I'm hoping that in this episode, you're realizing, oh, I thought it was just annoying to me to be touched out, but it's actually having this ripple effect that you don't want on the people that you love most. And so, what are some ways for moms out there to start handling being touched out differently? Because I have this new thing with my kids because I'm just like complained out, right? I'm like, there's a new rule in this house. If you have a complaint, you also have to have a potential solution. I am willing to help you come up with solutions, but you need to come to me with a potential solution that you've thought of. Because then it shifts things. Then you're solution oriented rather than just, I'm going to hand you this shit pie and you have to deal with it. It's like, no, I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that. But if you want to shift into a mindset of, what can I do about this? Perfect. Awesome. I don't want to hear that you're bored, but if you have something in mind, let's hear it and we can work on this together. I'm more than willing to support you in whatever goal that you have. And this is kind of the same thing, right? It's like if you're going through something and you zoom out, all you're going to see is you just, again, rowing on one side of the canoe, going in circles and still complaining like, why do I have to? Okay, let's look at the pattern here. This is constantly happening. And when that happens, this is how I behave. And when I behave like this is what happens. This is how I feel. Are you okay with that? If the answer is no, let's try something different. So Molly, what are some ideas on what people could start doing to support themselves more if they are constantly experiencing the overstimulation, the being touched out without having it negatively impact their family?
So I think one of the biggest things is you've got to start somewhere, right? So like if you're recognizing that you're touched out, like if any of the things we've talked about where you're like snapping or at the end of the day crumbling into bed, like physically exhausted, but then also waking up tired, you need to start kind of systematizing your day, which sounds like a big thing, right? Because it can be. So my first point of like getting started with this is document it. Like when you're feeling touched out, we all carry a supercomputer in our hands basically 24/7. Or, if you're old school, keep a whiteboard or a notepad on the fridge or somewhere nearby you. And when you start to feel it, write it down. Like take notes on how you're feeling, what's going on, what time it's happening. And again, not trying to add more to a busy plate, but like it's just something, if you don't know why or you're not understanding how, you need to research it, right? Like you need the information. So first things first, start documenting it. From 3 to 5, I can't stand when they're close to my face, which I totally get. I used to have a big ear thing. My children have taught me I don't always get to have a big bubble around me, which was a long process for me. But write it down, document it. The second thing is once you've collected the information, talk about it. Like I said, name it, communicate it, and start setting those boundaries. I had a big issue and still do on some days when I'm sitting at my desk working, my kids don't understand, but then they'll walk around going, shh, dad's working. I'm working too. Like, I'm here too. And so the rule is like, there's an invisible line kind of around me in this corner. And the same was true at our other house. Like, you don't cross that line when mom is at her computer and you need to get my attention. Like, I mean, they know when I headphones on, they know I'm recording, but like you get my attention and say, like, can I show you this? Or you start teaching these boundaries that like Mom has autonomy too. You don't always get to sit on my lap when I'm working. You don't always get to be in my space. Or like my daughter likes to take my notebooks and it drives me nuts. So like for toddlers, you have to be more intentional. I have a notebook on my desk that is Morgan's notebook, and she can stand here and draw on her notebook, but then she doesn't draw on mine. For a long time, she had an old keyboard. And so like set up systems and things that work for you, stack things that are helpful. If you give your kids limited screen time, when they're on that 20 minutes of screen time, you do 20 minutes of work. I'm a big advocate for time blocking and things like that. And maybe when they're at soccer practice or something like that, you stay in the car and take that time for yourself, because you have to start building in solo relaxation time. So you're in the car listening to a podcast, watching a murder show, whatever is going to make you and help you calm down, do it. Make time for it. My biggest advocacy is you deserve to prioritize yourself, and self-care is not selfish in any capacity. And I talk about simple self-care a lot. It doesn't have to be big. Go get yourself that iced coffee. Go get yourself fries from McDonald's. Do it. Do the thing that makes you feel good. Because if you're not doing it, it's never going to get better. You can't pour from an empty cup, but like you're never going to get more energy if you're not recharging. A big thing for parents with young kids, create a handoff plan. If your spouse is working out of the house and you're in the house, both of my kids are out of the house for most of the day, but then my son gets home from school, daughter comes home from daycare. We don't really have a handoff plan, but we do have signals for when I'm over it. Like this morning, I woke up overstimulated. I don't know why. It just kind of happened. I can't remember any crazy dreams, whatever, but I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I cannot, with the touches and the kids and the whining and the questions. And so I just looked at him and I was like, duo drop off. Like you take both kids to drop off, and that gives me some time to like woo-saw and reset. And he was like, yep, on it. And so then we go through the tornado of getting out the door and we go. And then have these conversations with your partner about reintroducing healthy and relaxing touches. So when you're ready to reconnect, you ask for a hand massage or a neck rub, stretch, do those things, and bring your partner in on this. Like, I'm not trying to make this some like sensual reconnection thing, but like it can be. Reconnecting and meeting the needs of physical touch does not always need to be sex. It's great if you can make time for that and you want it. But at the same time, like sometimes it's enough for my husband to just sit next to me, or like hand holding, which I don't know why, but I always feel like such a weenie just sitting on the couch, like holding his hand. But like this all comes down to communicating, because if you're not talking about it, you don't know what each other needs. And we think that the only way to meet the physical connection needs with our partner is sex. And that's not true, especially when you're both tired, you're both mentally exhausted, you're both unsure about what tomorrow will bring, and you just want to be together. Like I've heard Michelle say it before, like you started this family together, you need to reconnect. You can't put a pause on your relationship. And your partner wants to help you. Like your husband wants to be there and doesn't want to be yelled at. He doesn't want to watch you yell at the kids either. Like he doesn't want to have to be the one to yell at the kids. He wants to help. And like you can't just be this like lava lamp ready to erupt all the time and expect people to be like, but it's so pretty. Like you've got to talk about it and move through these things together to be healthy and communicate.
Yeah, and I think that just emphasizes how critical it is to be self-aware and continue to work on that. Like even people like us, we are still working on becoming more and more self-aware, okay? Like we are not perfect. Don't put us on a pedestal. We're in the trenches just like you. We just happen to have the tools and the know-how. And the more self-aware you are, the more your partner can begin to support you. But if you don't have any clue, it's just going to be like the luck of the draw, like he's guessing, but he also has his own stuff that he's dealing with. And so if you know what's going on with you, any kind of heads up is important to give. And that goes for the kids too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this also helps model to them that they can give little warnings if they're having an off day. Like if they like woke up on the wrong side of the bed, we all have those times where we are going to be human. We're not going to be all happy and loving and warm and fuzzy every single day, 24/7, especially as a mom. That is really difficult to do. At least it is for me. And so there's times where I've had to say, look, guys, everything is too much right now. And I just need you guys to be quiet from here until we get home. And then we can talk again. I want to hear what you have to say. But right now, everything is just too much for mommy. So back to what Molly was saying, like, own it, right? Like, don't put it on other people to feel like they have to walk on eggshells so that you don't blow up, right? It's not their problem that you're overstimulated. This is a us problem. Like, we got to figure out how to support ourselves better to be more resilient so that we can remove ourselves from the situation or set boundaries, but not in a way where we're faulting them for being kids or we're faulting our husband for wanting to connect. Like, all those are being done under good intentions. It's just that sometimes we're just not available for it, and that's okay.
And I think a big thing too is you know yourself the best.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned modeling for your kids. Our parents and generations before us, parents were authoritarian, like,
Yes.
right? Your parents in charge. Mother knows best. Sure, in given situations, but at the same time, mom's going to make mistakes.
Yep.
And rather than doubling down and being like, I told you to stay out of the kitchen, you say, buddy, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you. Mom's been dealing with a lot of stuff today. Own it. Talk to them about it. Because you know what? Instead of having a teenager who won't talk to you about how they're feeling or that they're being bullied or things like that, your kid will say, I had a really tough day at school.
Right.
And no guarantee here, but like the more we communicate and normalize that everyone poops, everyone also has emotions, everyone has feelings, different things upset different people at different times, and it's okay. It's okay for us all to be different and all of us to have different feelings at different times and to talk about it. You're going to get mad. I have a friend who is going through a terrible divorce and she goes and hides in her bathroom to cry. And she's like, I just don't want the boys to know that I'm upset. I'm like, why? Check in with yourself and say, why am I afraid to show my kids my emotions? Like, there's things to unpack there. And, I think the more we get comfortable and have the conversation about learning ourselves, becoming self-aware, building that tool, you're upgrading from like the old school Stanley screwdrivers to like a DeWalt superpower drill. Like, you're upgrading your system and you're upgrading yourself as you learn more. You can only do what you can do with the tools you have at the time, but understand that through podcasts, coaching, therapy, personal development, all these things, you're building a stronger set of tools and you learn the difference between a band-aid versus stitches when it comes to coping.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of friends who default to having to have a clean house or needing to go exercise and do that stuff. And that's great. There's places for that. There is benefits to that. But at the same time, how is that helping you process and move to a different place? Eventually, you and your partner need to be on opposite sides of the canoe to get it to move forward. You've got to move the boat forward. And is what you're doing and how you're processing that you're touched out helping you do that? So that's where, like, writing it down, talking about it. If you're talking with your friends about how you're touched out, talk about, like, what do you do? Ask them questions. What do you do that helps you with that? Or if they're coming to you with the same thing, feel free to break that cycle and be like, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? And again, I know a lot of these things sound like, well, how is that fixing it for me? I'm just adding more stuff to my brain. I get it. But like at the same time, there is no specified village anymore. So if your friends are married and they have kids, guess what? You've got common ground. You can talk about it and then get to the point where you're doing things for yourself and not just throwing things at the wall and hoping that they stick. Continue to build this tool set and understand yourself, and it's only going to benefit everyone in your life.
Yeah. And I just want to add one more thing. Yes, it might seem like just another thing to do on your endless list of things to do, like the length of a CVS receipt, right? But the stuff that we're talking about right now, it's going to help you move that canoe forward to get to that destination that you want, whatever it is that you envision for your future. Like, let's say you're 80 years old and you have this idea of what an amazing life would look like. This is going to help you get there. And it's not always going to feel hard, okay? It's one of those things where with communication, it feels hard at first because it's not natural to you. It's different. It's requiring you to change what you normally do. And you need a running start for that, right? But once you do, you know what to do and it becomes second nature. You're able to pivot sooner. You're able to handle things better and it won't be a thing anymore. So it's not always going to feel this challenging. And so I don't want you to feel discouraged if you're like, oh my gosh, like forget it. I'm just better off still doing what I'm doing. Back to that question, is this going to help you get to where you want to end up with your life? Because what you do now is getting you closer or staying still or moving you backwards. So what do you want to do with that? Okay. So Molly, thank you so much for sharing all that. That was all so important for everyone to know because we want the best for you. Okay. We recognize that you're going to get touched out and we want you to move into a canoe that has paddling going on both sides. Okay. So Molly, how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm hanging out on Instagram most of the time. You can find me at mamaneeds.metime on there. mamaneedsmetime.com. So it's MAMA, needsmetime.com. You can find my coaching stuff. I'm launching an online community called the Mom Squad. There's multiple tiers of involvement. So you can do just kind of the lurker phase where you're just in the community collecting resources, joining in on forum chats. There's a level where you get the biweekly Q&A calls and information sessions, bonus content from the podcast. And then the VIP, you get one-on-one pocket coaching, which is super convenient because it's just from your phone and you can check in with me whenever you want. And then more content, more Molly. I've got the main podcast, Mama Needs Me Time, where I'm interviewing wonderful coaches and service providers like Michelle. And then every Thursday, I drop a short episode called Me Time Minutes, where I talk about topics like this, being touched out, surviving the end of the school year, kind of just checking in and making sure you're keeping yourself on the level, moving that boat forward and the in-between times. And yeah, I love helping moms and all women, but moms are my jam because I think we're an overutilized and underappreciated group of people. And we're in a time and an era where you get to make change that is your choice. And I think that that's scary for people because they don't know how. Becoming a mom often is a huge change where you lose your choice and you've just got to get through it. And you still have autonomy and decision-making process in that growth. So keep your head up, keep going, and keep listening to podcasts that are going to change the game for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here and sharing your expertise. Go connect with Molly if you have resonated with this episode and you want to continue to be in her space and learn from her and live your best mom life unapologetically, because that's what she's all about. And if you know someone that could benefit from listening to this episode, please share it with them. And if you have been loving the show, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And I will catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.